PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, a voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and on this edition, we are going to be doing kind of a special video here as we are going to be talking about and really breaking down, there are statues at NHL stadiums, NFL stadiums, NBA stadiums, MLB, but regardless of what sport it is, there are statues outside the stadium, right? And they normally have like the best players, they have the best moments. And what we're going to be talking about on this episode of Vegas Hockey Hub is that we are going to be going over what I see as the 5 most likely options of these statues being put outside T-Mobile Arena eventually and inevitably when that does happen. So we're going to be talking about all of that here on Vegas Hockey Hub with your host, Ian Rachiele. So this should be a very good video. Now go to www.prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media, and check out all the amazing content we have on the network. We have about a dozen shows on the platform, including Vegas Hockey Hub. So my recommendation would be to go to PR Connections Radio and check out all the content we have on the network. I would also say go to the social medias. We are on all major platforms at Vegas Hockey Hub. And if you also want to follow, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. We are everywhere. You can't escape us. And if you want to follow your host, I am right down there at Ian J. Rachiele. So the concept for this is because it's something we did on the Vegas Hockey Hub YouTube channel about a year ago. So about a year ago, I did what 5 players would most likely get their jersey retired at T-Mobile Arena, who would be the Golden Knights players who would have their jersey with their banner being risen up to the top of the ceiling and being at the rafters at with the Vegas Golden Knights at T-Mobile Arena. So in a roundabout way, I'm kind of pivoting here, but I'm talking about, the statues that would be at T-Mobile Arena for fans to sit there, take pictures, look at it, everything like that. So we're going to start this out at number 5, okay? And at number 5, when it comes to a statue being made at T-Mobile Arena, I am going to start and going back to the original inaugural season, and that is going to be at number 5, William Karlsson's between the leg goal against the San Jose Sharks, against Martin Jones. And this was an iconic moment, one of the first big moments that ever happened in Vegas Golden Knights history. And considering the relationship and the history that William Karlsson has had, and considering what he has done in the Golden Knights organization, if you talk about the originals, you talk about misfits, and all the people who have been a vital part of your Vegas Golden Knights organization, William Karlsson is going to be a big piece here. Now, regardless of will his jersey be retired, will it be up in the rafters, you know what, we'll talk about that, some other time. But think about what this moment meant, okay? 2017, 2018, the inaugural season, your Vegas Golden Knights, they are riding the high at this point. Pacific Division winner. We're talking about the Vegas Golden Knights just kept on winning and kept on winning and kept on winning. It wasn't the fact that you saw an inaugural expansion team do something that hadn't been done since 1967. It was the fact that you also had a bunch of misfits, people that were discarded and abandoned, go to the Vegas Golden Knights organization. Columbus Blue Jackets, they let up William Karlsson. He goes to Vegas and becomes immediately a top 6 forward in Vegas. And of course, in 2017, 2018, he would have the best season in Vegas Golden Knights history, 43 goals and 78 points on the season. And one of those 43 goals was this between the legs goal. So during the regular season, William Karlsson on a breakaway. It was a one-on-one opportunity, and William Karlsson, he shifts his body and puts the puck in between his legs and shoots it past the goaltender with San Jose Sharks, puts it in the back of the net, and the T-Mobile Arena exploded, right? It was an amazing moment to really sit there and look at the fact that you had a Vegas Golden Knights team that was doing what they were doing at that time, and then you have such an iconic, memorable goal with William Karlsson. In fact, you still see it being played sometimes when you look at trailers and everything like that. William Karlsson, that was an incredible moment, a fantastic situation with him. And considering who came from the Misfit era, and we'll talk about two of them later on in the show, but when you overall sit there and look at what the Vegas Golden Knights did in that first year, William Karlsson having that iconic and memorable goal, this is what I'm thinking about when it comes to a statue at T-Mobile Arena. And, I think that what it could be is you don't really have to have the goaltender. You don't have to have a net, anything like that. But you essentially could have a statue with William Karlsson's jersey. You could have a puck in between his legs and a stick on the outer side of it. That would be the statue there. It essentially would be kind of replicating what it looked like when he put the stick in between his legs and shot the puck into the back of the net. That would be what it would be. And more importantly, if you did retire number 71, if you eventually have him be in the Ring of Honor with the Golden Knights organization, considering William Karlsson was a day one guy, considering William Karlsson still has the franchise record for most points in a single season with the Golden Knights, and this is someone who won a Stanley Cup here. He played 7 seasons at this point here. William Karlsson, he has the ability to sit there and say that, you know what, he was such an impactful player with the Golden Knights that him getting a statue does make sense down the line. I'm talking about, 5, 10, 15 years from now. But William Karlsson and his impact with the Golden Knights and his iconic moment was that between the legs goal against San Jose during the inaugural season. So that would be at number 5. Now, number 4. This is going to be a hot take here. Okay? There are going to be people who are going to like this and going to be people who are going to dislike this. But it was such an iconic moment. And this was a situation where you had somebody who did this iconic moment and something that was being replayed over and over and over and over again. And considering this is somebody who's going to be a future Hockey Hall of Famer, someone who is going to eventually go and be in the International Ice Hockey Federation Hall of Fame, this is someone that is well-deserved. So at number 4, talking about, who could be, something that we're talking about at T-Mobile Arena is sitting in front of it. The diving save that Marc-Andre Fleury did back in the 2018-2019 season. It is a memorable moment. It is a slap shot and a screenshot that you can remember from a mile away. The fact that Marc-Andre Fleury dived and made an incredible stop and made a fantastic save during that situation. Now, for the people who are going to say on the positive side here, he is a future Hall of Famer. And because he's a future Hall of Famer, because of what he did in Pittsburgh, a lot of people are not going to forget that he also did some very solid stuff here with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. So when you really stop and analyze it with Marc-Andre Fleury, this is a situation where all you would need for the statue is kind of him reaching out, extending, and making the diving save in midair and stopping the puck from getting in the back of the net. That is what the statue would look like. So you'd have the base down here, and then you would have him reaching out and making the extension, making the save for the Vegas Golden Knights. That would be the statue there. Like I said, very similar to the William Karlsson, who I had at number 5, where the statue is that you would have the base, and then you would have William Karlsson with a stick in between his legs and a puck shooting out of it. That is what the statue would be. because Marc-Andre Fleury is a controversial situation with the Golden Knights because there are fan bases and there are people who are still loyal and love Flower all these years later. There are people who are passionate fans of the Vegas Golden Knights who will forever love Marc-Andre Fleury for what he did in Vegas, for the way that he rallied the Golden Knights organization. He was the starting goaltender when they went to the Stanley Cup Final in 2018, and he was a fan favorite. He was someone that during the 4 seasons he played in Vegas, he was the guy that everyone loved here. So on that end, if you're someone who's on the positive side of it, seeing a statue for a future Hall of Famer, it would make sense to you. Now, for the retractors, for the people who are on the opposite side of it, they look at how he left the Vegas Golden Knights. They will see how his agent sabotaged it. They see what he did against Montreal, the way he let up that goal in the Western Conference Finals against the Montreal Canadiens. And that would be a big reason why some people may or may not want this statue in front of T-Mobile Arena, because of how he left the organization. So depending on what part you are in, if you're for it or against it, the reality is Marc-Andre Fleury did have that diving save, which is still iconic to this day. It is something that can be replayed over and over and over again. So that's at number 4, talking about, statues that could be made at T-Mobile Arena. That diving save Marc-Andre Fleury did in 2018, 2019 would be on that list there because of how he did it, and more importantly, because of what he did in terms of the save itself. And with him being a future Hockey Hall of Famer, eventually when he does get in the Hockey Hall of Fame, Pittsburgh is going to do something for him, and maybe, depending on how much time has elapsed, he might have something in Vegas as well. So that's at number 4, okay? Talking about statues at T-Mobile Arena, potential possibilities. Number 5 was William Karlsson's between the legs goal in 2017-2018. And then number 4 back in 2018-2019 was the diving save from Marc-Andre Fleury, was an iconic moment. Now, the next moment here is a kind of a interesting one because you had to be there for it, okay? If you were in the building, everyone felt it, all right? If you were at T-Mobile Arena, if you were at the Fortress and you saw this speech live, it hit you right here, all right? It got you in your feels, the way that it was done, the way they honored everybody, the way it was commemorated, and more importantly, the person who gave that speech and the speech itself is iconic. And to everyone here who was in Las Vegas, who was around during that time period, it was something that lifted you up. It was a speech that really got you back during that time period. And at number 3, I'm talking about the Vegas Strong speech from Derek England. Now, for the people who do not know or people who may not know, let me give you the context. On October 1st, 2017, there was a mass shooting at the Mandalay Bay at the Route 91 Festival. It was one of the most deadly shootings in U.S. history. It was tragic. It was awful. And the Vegas Golden Knights were playing a preseason hockey game against the San Jose Sharks that same day. Now, fast forward about a week later, the start of the regular season does start. And the second game of the season, the Vegas Golden Knights have their home opener and their first ever game in the regular season, the Vegas Golden Knights against the Arizona Coyotes. As a matter of fact, my ticket is still right behind me from when I went to Arizona versus Vegas. My commemorative ticket is right there on that panel right behind me. And before they started the game, all right, before even a puck dropped on October 10th, 2017, you had them commemorate the 58 souls who did pass away from 1 October. And something that they also did is they had the entire roster come out. They did it from an order of jersey number. They all skated onto the ice. And then when they got to near center ice, Derek England grabs the microphone. He speaks to everyone who's at T-Mobile Arena. He has his speech. And if you watch, you can go on YouTube, open a new tab, and actually look for it. It is a memorable moment here in Vegas, not just for the locals who saw what happened 9 days prior, but for the people who actually were around it, for the people who are on the strip, who are workers, for the people who are actually around the area when the event did happen. It struck you right away. And because of Derek England's speech, it was a moment that kind of rallied the city of Las Vegas. That's why the whole Vegas strong mentality, that was really where it came from. And if you really don't have this speech, if you do not have what was being done during that time period, it was something that you really look at as someone, as a local, and you go, you know what? If you have this speech, it lifts everybody up, and it made everyone sit there and go, you know what? You had Derek England, he had the touching speech, and it was only about, I think, 3 minutes, 4 minutes long. But at the end of it, we are Vegas strong. That was a situation where you really looked at it and it just felt you right here. So my idea for a statue, kind of in a way of commemorating the 2017-2018 team, but what I would do is I would have the speech written out on the outskirts of it. So you'd have the base of the statue, you would have the writing out of the speech on the bottom of it, and then you would have either the list of the names, you'd either have whatever you can do, maybe have the jersey, like kind of a model of the jersey, the number 58. But what the statue would be is commemorating and paying honor and respect to the 58 people who lost their lives. And what I would do for a statue is I would have the speech written on the plaque, okay? So the plaque would be the speech, the base would be there, and you would have a way to kind of, show respect to what happened on 1 October. So that would be at number 3, the Vegas Strong speech from Derek England. That is something that I think if you really wanted to show a lot of respect to that, it is what I would do. In terms of having a statue at T-Mobile Arena eventually when that time comes, if you want to look at it and kind of commemorate and see what happened in 2017, 2018, this would be one of the ways to do it. So that is number 3. Okay, Derek England's speech. That is how I would do it there. Now, at number 2, all right, we're down to our final 2 right now. And at number 2, I have to go with the face of the franchise. I have to go with someone who is beloved here in Las Vegas, someone who is a fan favorite, someone who everybody over the last 7 seasons has grown to admire, respect, and appreciate what he does with the Golden Knights organization. Now I'm talking about somebody that I have a photo of right behind me, right over my head. And I'm actually going to go with number 2, number 81, Jonathan Marchessault. And for the statue, I would have him holding the Conn Smythe Trophy for the playoff MVP. So kind of similar to what the photo is behind me, but it would be in a statue-like form. So in order to honor what Jonathan Marchessault has done for the organization, he is a franchise leader in almost every single category you can come up with. But overall, for Jonathan Marchessault, having that Conn Smythe Trophy, him being playoff MVP, has been the biggest achievement he has done as a Vegas Golden Knight. And if he when he retires, when his jersey gets retired inevitably by the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm not saying here as an if, I'm saying most likely when Jonathan Marchessault's number 81 does get retired by the Golden Knights organization, I would not be shocked if at around the same time they had a trophy and a statue of Jonathan Marchessault outside the arena and kind of having him be commemorated by the fans for what he did in this city. Okay? Jonathan Marchessault's performance in that Stanley Cup playoffs is memorable. It's iconic. It's remarkable what he did to lead the Vegas Golden Knights and help them win a Stanley Cup championship. And also what Jonathan Marchessault has done this season, by the way, is amazing. At the amount of goals he has scored, I understand that, everything that's going on right now, but just Jonathan Marchessault's 7 seasons have been great. And you know what? It's a while away. I'm not going to sit here and speculate. I'm not going to do rumors. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to sit here and say if this is his final season in Vegas or if he does eventually re-sign a little bit from now and he does stay with the Golden Knights organization. Of course, there's a lot of things that we have to figure out first, and there's a lot of stuff we need to do first before that time comes up. But with Jonathan Marchessault, his Conn Smythe trophy, that could turn into a statue. The photo of him holding it up with the Stanley Cup championship cap that he has on, and then you see him wearing the Golden Knights jersey and him holding the Conn Smythe trophy. That could be a statue with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. That's something you could have outside of T-Mobile Arena, and fans could take a picture of it. They could, take a picture in front of it, anything like that. But I will say for Jonathan Marchessault, he would be the number 2 option when it comes to a statue being built outside T-Mobile Arena. But he's not number 1. And before we get to number 1, I want to recap very quickly what our 5-2 have been. So at number 5, William Karlsson's between the legs goal in 2017-2018. It is the most iconic moment he has done throughout his career. And if they were ever going to do a retirement and eventually a statue of a guy who has been a misfit and an everyday guy in Vegas, this would be a statue you could maybe make of someone like William Karlsson. At number 4 would be a former goaltender and a fan favorite still to this day in Marc-Andre Fleury. In 2018-2019, he made a memorable diving save in midair to rob the Philadelphia Flyers, and it was an iconic moment that season. And if he goes in the Hockey Hall of Fame, which he most definitely will, and the Golden Knights want to respect him and show some homage to him, this would be his iconic moment. At number 3, during the 2017-2018 season, because of what happened on 1 October, Derek England, before the game kicked off, he had a speech, about a 3-minute speech. We are Vegas strong. And if they want to do a statue and pay respect to the victims of 1 October, one of the most deadliest mass shootings that happened in United States history, Derek England's speech and writing it out and having it on a plaque could be a statue idea as well, because of how it uplifted and it made people feel that were at the stadium that night. Derek England's speech would be up there at number 3. At number 2, the best player and the most recognizable player from the Vegas Golden Knights history, someone who has a bunch of records and awards with the Golden Knights, Jonathan Marchessault. And for a statue idea, his Conn Smythe trophy would be the concept there. But at number 1, and I think most people know what this was going to be, I think some people probably already had a vague idea of what the first statue is going to be. If you're going to build a statue, if you're going to do anything first at T-Mobile Arena, it's got to be the crowning achievement for a team. It's got to be the best moment a team has ever had, and that's winning a Stanley Cup. But more importantly, if you win a Stanley Cup, you have to have somebody hoist a Stanley Cup over their head and skate around with it. But if you're going to have someone hoist around a Stanley Cup and they're going to celebrate with it, it's got to be your captain, right? It's got to be the first person who grabbed that Stanley Cup and hoisted it at T-Mobile Arena. So my number 1 statue idea is your captain, Mark Stone, hoisting the Stanley Cup. It's got to be that number 61 jersey, the gold and the black and everything there, and the gold and the gray, him lifting the Stanley Cup above his head, him yelling and celebrating and cheering. That is the statue there. Not only is it the statue because you are the Stanley Cup champion, not only is it the statue idea because it is the best moment that has happened in Golden Knights history. But let's just be honest here. This is the best moment ever in Golden Knights history. This was the crowning achievement. This was the cherry on top for the Golden Knights. They made the playoffs, yeah. They made the Stanley Cup Finals once. They made it to the Western Conference Finals a bunch of times. Yeah, that's nice round of applause, but they hadn't won a Stanley Cup yet. And it wasn't until Mark Stone, who was arguably the most impactful player, and his goal in Game 5 is a memorable goal, to say the least. The fact that you had a hat trick during that time period as well. Mark Stone grabbing the Stanley Cup, raising it, Mark Stone doing what he did in that Stanley Cup final, he would be the statue. And I know some Golden Knights fans are going to moan and groan and say, why isn't it Riley Smith? Why isn't it William Karlsson? Why isn't it Jonathan Marchessault? Oh, why isn't it insert player here? You got to remember something. Mark Stone is the captain. Mark Stone is your leader in the locker room. He is, to most people, your franchise leader. He is someone who is going to be with the Golden Knights for the X amount of years. He is going to be a stay-in right here in Las Vegas. So if you're going to build a statue hoisting the Stanley Cup and showing respect to a team that won a Stanley Cup championship, it's got to be your captain, okay? Outside of like Ray Bourque with the Colorado Avalanche, with Joe Sakic gave it to Ray Bourque. You know, outside of stuff like that where the captain didn't raise it first and instead passed it off to somebody else, you have to have your captain be that moment. He's your captain for a reason. He's the most respected guy in that locker room. Most of the time, the captain, by the way, is voted on by the players themselves. So, Mark Stone hoisting the Stanley Cup should be the first statue that is built outside of T-Mobile Arena. Them showing off the Stanley Cup championship and having that base saying 2023 Stanley Cup champions is what needs to be said there. And you know what? If you want to be special, if you want to do what some teams have done in the past, which is have all 25 players written on that base and pretty much showing respect to every single person that was part of the organization, you could do that as well. But I say the statue itself, the actual statue, would be Mark Stone, your captain, hoisting the Stanley Cup and having it being risen here in Las Vegas. But I'm going to pass this over to you. You let me know. Do you agree or disagree with this ranking? Do you say that when it comes to statues being built for a hockey team, winning a Stanley Cup is the pinnacle? Winning a Stanley Cup is what you go out to do every single season. So winning a Stanley Cup is what you go out and you get that money and you go out and win for. That, like, let's just be honest. Every hockey player's dream is to hoist a Stanley Cup one day. Every NHL player's goal and desire is to eventually be named a Stanley Cup champion. So, going to go over the top 5 one more time. We have about a minute left here. At number 5, the Between the Legs goal in 2017-2018 regarding William Karlsson. If he ever does get inducted into the Ring of Honor, I would say a statue being made for him does make some sense. At number 4, the diving save in midair for Marc-Andre Fleury, the future Hockey Hall of Famer. If the Golden Knights ever decide to show respect to him and build a statue for him, considering he'll probably be the first Hockey Hall of Famer in Golden Knights history, that could be that option there. At number 3, the Vegas Strong speech from Derek England on opening night in 2017-2018, paying homage and showing respect to the victims of 1 October from October 1st, 2017. At number 2, the best player in franchise history, Jonathan Marchessault's Conn Smythe Trophy. You could turn that into a statue there. And then at number 1, the best moment in franchise history, and that's when the Vegas Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup and your captain, Mark Stone, raising the Stanley Cup trophy at T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas. So, this is Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And until next time, continue watching hockey, go support junior hockey, and go Knights, go!